Imagine waking up every day with an invisible force inside you, not one that protects you, but one that undermines you. A voice that whispers, "You're not good enough," just when you're on the edge of something great. A force that quietly pulls the strings behind every missed opportunity, failed relationship, or abandoned dream. It doesn't live outside of you. It is you. This is the reality of self-sabotage, a hidden psychological mechanism that convinces you to destroy the very things you say you want: happiness, love, success. It's not a flaw of character. It's not weakness. It's a pattern, deeply rooted in the mind, often shaped by fear, shame, and unhealed pain. And today, we are going to confront it. We'll explore how self-sabotage operates from the shadows, how it wears the mask of logic and caution, and how it quietly convinces you that you don't deserve better. We'll draw from ancient philosophy and modern psychology to understand why we betray our own potential and how we can stop. Because if we do not confront the war within, no amount of success or validation from the outside world will ever be enough. Clinical psychologist Dr. Robert Firestone introduced the concept of the anti-self, a part of our psyche shaped by early criticism, rejection, and emotional wounds. This anti-self becomes an inner saboteur, a voice that tells you to play small, avoid risk, and expect failure. It convinces you that discomfort is dangerous and that it's safer to settle, to stay stuck, to repeat familiar pain than to risk something new. Think about it. How often have you given up on something good, not because it wasn't working, but because a part of you didn't believe you deserved it? How often have you hesitated at the edge of joy, waiting for the other shoe to drop? In today's culture of comparison, perfectionism, and relentless productivity, this inner critic is constantly being fed, and we don't even notice it. From procrastination to toxic relationships, perfectionism to emotional numbing, the behaviors we call bad habits are often deeper acts of self-protection masquerading as self-destruction. But the more we listen to that inner saboteur, the further we drift from who we're meant to be. By the end of this video, you'll gain a powerful insight into this destructive cycle and a new way of seeing yourself. Because once you recognize the voice of sabotage for what it truly is, you can finally choose to stop obeying it. It often begins with small, seemingly harmless choices. Putting off a project, canceling plans that matter, saying yes when you mean no. These decisions feel minor in the moment, but over time, they carve deep patterns into your life. Patterns of avoidance, fear, and stagnation. This is the subtle, corrosive nature of self-sabotage. Think about how often you turn to your phone when you feel overwhelmed or insecure. A quick scroll, a hit of distraction, maybe even validation. But instead of feeling better, you come away feeling more anxious, more disconnected, more empty. This is not an accident. It's a psychological trap, one that keeps you stuck. Modern psychology reveals a concept at the heart of this behavior, the self-handicapping loop. When we fear failure, we create excuses in advance to protect our self-worth. We procrastinate, overcommit, self-medicate. That way, if we fall short, we can blame the circumstances, not ourselves. But in doing so, we never test our real potential. We never find out what we're truly capable of because we never fully try. This is the real tragedy of self-sabotage. It doesn't look like destruction. It looks like hesitation, like distraction, like settling for less. And the more we feed these behaviors, the more they reinforce a belief that we are unworthy of success and happiness. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, the discomfort we feel when our actions contradict our self-image. If deep down you believe you're not worthy of love, then real intimacy will feel threatening. If you see yourself as a failure, then progress will feel like a lie. So your mind protects itself the only way it knows how, by sabotaging anything that contradicts your internal narrative. And it gets worse. The more often you act in ways that shrink you, quitting too soon, hiding from challenges, numbing out with distraction, the more your identity locks into place. You begin to confuse your pattern with your personality. You stop saying, "I'm avoiding risk," and start saying, "I'm just not that type of person." This is how self-sabotage becomes a lifestyle, a quiet, familiar script that plays beneath everything you do. And unless you consciously rewrite it, you will keep living out the same story. over and over again. But here's the truth that changes everything. Patterns are not permanent, they are learned, and what's learned can be unlearned. The first step to healing self-sabotage is to become aware of it, not just when it explodes your life, but when it whispers, when it suggests staying quiet, shrinking back, numbing out. In those moments, ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Whose voice am I obeying right now? Is this fear protecting me or preventing me? Because the power to change doesn't begin in grand transformations. It begins in small acts of rebellion, against fear, against shame, against the false belief that you are not enough. Modern neuroscience has revealed something both fascinating and dangerous. Our brains are wired to seek rewards. Every time we experience something pleasurable, a compliment, a like on social media, a delicious bite of food, our brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that signals, do that again. This mechanism, designed to help us survive and thrive, has been hijacked in ways we barely notice. It's not just the reward that drives us, it's the anticipation of the reward. Studies show that dopamine spikes more in the moments before the pleasure than during the pleasure itself. That's why we keep checking our phones for a reply that hasn't come, why we obsessively refresh, scroll, chase. It's not the actual outcome that hooks us, it's the possibility, the chase. This creates a powerful feedback loop, one that makes self-sabotage not just likely, but inevitable. Because the behaviors that give us quick hits, distraction, avoidance, impulsive decisions, feel rewarding in the moment, even if they lead to regret. This is how we trade long-term growth for short-term relief without even realizing it. And these experiences aren't random. As former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris explains, today's digital platforms are engineered to exploit our vulnerabilities. They use something called intermittent variable rewards, a system borrowed from casinos, to keep us engaged. You never know which scroll will reward you, which notification will validate you, and so, like a rat pressing a lever, we keep going. This doesn't just affect how we use our phones, it rewires how we make decisions. It conditions us to prioritize the feeling of progress over actual progress. It keeps us locked in cycles of near success, emotional burnout, and perpetual dissatisfaction. Aldous Huxley warned of a future where control wouldn't come through force, but through pleasure. In Brave New World, citizens were too entertained to care about their freedom, too medicated by instant gratification to notice the slow erosion of meaning. Today, we don't need Soma. We have distractions, curated content, digital highs, and all of them whisper the same message. Stay comfortable, stay quiet, stay the same. But here's the real danger. When we surrender to these patterns, when we favor fleeting dopamine over lasting fulfillment, we don't just lose time, we lose potential. We sabotage the future for the illusion of ease. And that's why recognizing these patterns is not just a mental exercise, it's an act of reclaiming your life. When we prioritize short-term comfort over long-term growth, we do more than waste time. We sacrifice the chance to become who we are meant to be. Growth requires effort, it demands discomfort. But in a world engineered for ease, those values are slowly being erased. This system doesn't just promote pleasure, it glorifies it. Advertising tells you happiness can be bought. Social media tells you success is measured in likes. Culture rewards the appearance of achievement over the substance of it. And in this chaos, we begin to forget what actually nourishes us. Philosopher Erich Fromm, in To Have or To Be, warned us of this exact trap. He argued that when society teaches us to define ourselves by what we possess rather than who we are, we become hollow. The joy we chase becomes performative. The life we build becomes fragile. So what is the alternative? It begins with a radical shift in intention, from seeking pleasure to seeking purpose. This doesn't mean we must reject joy. It means we must reclaim it. We must choose to pursue the kind of joy that endures, not because it's easy, but because it's real. Psychologist Martin Seligman, a pioneer in the field of positive psychology, identified 3 essential ingredients for a fulfilling life: meaning, engagement, and connection. Pleasure is part of that equation, but only a part. It is not the whole. Without purpose, pleasure becomes empty. Without growth, happiness becomes fragile. So pause, reflect. What brings you true joy? Not the fleeting highs that fade with the screen, but the deeper satisfaction that comes from building something, helping someone, becoming more of who you are. And can you name just one place in your life where you've been trading depth for distraction? Where you've been choosing the easy path over the one that might transform you? Because the answers to these questions might be the beginning of real freedom. In the chapters ahead, we'll explore practical ways to break free from the grip of the attention economy, from our own unconscious patterns, and from the habits that keep us stuck. But before we get there, hold on to this truth. The unchecked pursuit of pleasure is not freedom. It is a form of enslavement. To be truly free, we must learn to distinguish between what nourishes us and what numbs us, between what delights us and what ultimately destroys us. The answers to these questions won't come through noise or novelty. They will come in silence, in stillness, in moments of honest self-reflection. Let us continue this journey together into reclaiming our time, our energy, and our minds. Because what comes next may challenge everything you've believed about happiness, success, and what it means to truly live. Let's now go deeper into the psychological and philosophical consequences of a life built around pleasure. If we've learned anything from thinkers like Aldous Huxley and modern psychology, it's this: unchecked hedonism doesn't just enslave individuals, it slowly reshapes entire societies. And it does so subtly and visibly in ways we are often too distracted to notice. Consider the idea of soft tyranny, a form of control that feels comforting, not oppressive. Alexis de Tocqueville, in his analysis of democratic societies, warned of a future where people would willingly trade their autonomy for comfort, where freedom would be quietly surrendered in exchange for ease, safety, and endless entertainment. This is the world Huxley imagined in Brave New World, a society not ruled by fear but by pleasure, not held captive by violence but by stimulation, where people were pacified by comfort and had no reason or desire to rebel. Now ask yourself, is that so different from the world we live in today? Every day, we're flooded with conveniences, devices that think for us, apps that anticipate our needs, platforms that distract us at will. Life has never been more effortless, but with every task we outsource, with every decision we hand over to the algorithm, we lose something essential. The less effort we put into living, into thinking, choosing, striving, the more power we quietly give away. Not just to tech companies, but to the systems that benefit from our passivity. The irony is that this surrender doesn't feel like captivity. It feels like progress, it feels like luxury, it feels good. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. Aldous Huxley once warned that a truly efficient totalitarian state would be one where the rulers need not enforce control through violence, because the people would come to love their own servitude. A population of slaves, he wrote, who do not have to be coerced because they love their servitude. Now ask yourself how many of your choices are truly free, and how many are shaped, if not outright dictated, by algorithms, social trends, or the invisible pressures of what's normal? When was the last time you deliberately chose discomfort, knowing it would make you better? When was the last time you walked away from convenience in favor of growth? These aren't just personal questions. They are cultural questions, because the ripple effects of a pleasure-obsessed life don't stop at the individual. They extend into our relationships, our communities, and even the planet we live on. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard captured this danger in what he called the despair of the aesthetic life, a life spent chasing beauty, novelty, and comfort, but devoid of meaning or responsibility. He believed that true fulfillment could only be found by choosing the ethical life, one rooted in purpose, discipline, and commitment to something greater than the self. Let's make that idea real. Picture two paths. One is smooth, wide, and easy. It offers comfort, validation, and instant gratification. But at the end of it, there's nothing lasting, just more craving. The other path is narrow and steep. It demands effort, sacrifice, and resilience, but it leads to depth, to connection, to a legacy. Which one are you walking right now? Modern psychology supports Kierkegaard's insight. Research shows that those who prioritize intrinsic goals, personal growth, authentic relationships, meaningful contribution, experience deeper, more sustainable happiness than those who chase extrinsic goals like money, status, or fame. Yet our culture relentlessly pushes us toward the latter. Why? Because consumerism thrives on your dissatisfaction. If you were genuinely fulfilled, you wouldn't need to buy the next product, follow the next trend, or prove yourself online. That's why advertisers don't just sell products. They sell discontent. They sell the belief that you are not enough, and then offer you something to fix it. They don't just sell you products. They sell you lifestyles. They sell you the illusion that happiness is always just one purchase away. But here's the uncomfortable truth. No amount of external pleasure can ever fill an internal void. And this is why so many people, despite achieving what they thought they wanted, despite accumulating wealth, status, followers, still feel empty, still feel restless, still feel like something is missing. Psychologist Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And he was right, because often the relentless chase for pleasure is not about happiness at all. It's about avoidance. Avoiding discomfort, avoiding reflection, avoiding the deeper, more difficult work of self-discovery. So how do we escape this trap? It begins with awareness, with noticing. Noticing the ways we've been conditioned, the habits we don't question, the compulsions we mistake for choice. But awareness alone is not enough. We must also act deliberately, consistently, and often uncomfortably to reclaim our attention, our time, our lives. Start small. Turn off your notifications. Set clear boundaries with your technology. Replace mindless scrolling with mindful activity. Reach out to someone. Read a book. Create something. Move your body. Reflect. Rest. These may seem like minor acts, but in a world engineered to keep you distracted, they are radical. Ask yourself honestly, what would your life look like if you prioritized meaning over pleasure? What habits would you need to break? What stories would you need to stop believing? As we move into the final part of this journey, we will uncover the most profound insight of all, the key that unlocks the door to a life of true agency and depth. Stay with us, because the most important lesson is still ahead. Let us now confront the heart of the matter. How do we reclaim our freedom in a world that thrives on our addiction to pleasure? The answer lies in one simple but powerful truth. Freedom does not come from doing whatever we want. It comes from the discipline to choose what truly matters. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how," and in that single sentence lies the way forward. This insight is not just a theory, it is a cornerstone of liberation. When you anchor your life to a deeper purpose, the fleeting temptations of pleasure begin to lose their grip. You no longer need to numb discomfort or chase validation, because you're guided by something more powerful: meaning. Purpose becomes a compass. It points you forward even when distractions call out from every direction. It steadies you in a world built to unbalance you. Consider the lives of those who shaped history: Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King Jr. These individuals didn't pursue comfort. They pursued truth, justice, compassion. Their greatness wasn't born from ease, but from enduring hardship in service of something greater than themselves. And through that struggle, they found a kind of joy no pleasure could match. Because the most profound joy doesn't come from indulgence. It comes from creation, connection, and perseverance. From showing up, from giving, from building something meaningful even in the face of resistance. But in a world that constantly pulls your attention in 100 directions, how do you find your why? Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, in his life-changing work Man's Search for Meaning, offers a way forward. After surviving the unimaginable horrors of a concentration camp, Frankl discovered that meaning can be found in 3 ways: by creating something of value, by loving deeply and experiencing relationships, and by growing through suffering. Each of these paths asks us to step outside ourselves, to look beyond our cravings and instead engage with life fully, intentionally. So ask yourself, what legacy do I want to leave behind? How can I use my strengths to serve others? When I suffer, how can I use it to grow? These are not simple questions, but they are transformative. Because in seeking their answers, you begin the process of reclaiming your life from the shallow pursuit of pleasure and stepping boldly into purpose. Now let's confront the ultimate insight, the truth that ties every part of this journey together. The pursuit of pleasure, while alluring, is ultimately a distraction from the deeper pursuit of meaning. True happiness, the kind that lasts, is not found in the dopamine hits of consumption, attention, or escapism. It is found in what the ancient Greeks called eudaimonia, a flourishing life, a life of virtue, wisdom, and intentionality. This is not a life without joy. It is a life where joy arises from alignment with your values, your purpose, and your deeper self. So what does all of this mean for you right now, today? It means you are at a crossroads. The path of pleasure, with its endless distractions and promises of quick fixes, is always within arm's reach. It's seductive, it's comforting, and it's everywhere. But now you know the truth that a life based on fleeting pleasures is a life that remains unfulfilled, constantly seeking but never satisfied. But there's another way, a way rooted in meaning, in purpose, in growth. The pursuit of true happiness isn't about chasing after the next high, the next purchase, the next instant gratification. It's about finding something greater than yourself and aligning your life with it. It's about engaging in the world in a way that asks you to contribute, to create, to challenge yourself. The journey to breaking free from the chains of pleasure is not easy. It requires discipline, reflection, and a willingness to embrace discomfort. But it is also the most liberating journey you can undertake. So, what will you choose? Will you continue to let the distractions of the world determine your happiness? Or will you choose the path of purpose, where true fulfillment lies? The power to change your life is within you, and it begins with a single question. What truly matters to me? Reflect on that and let it guide you. Because the life you've always wanted isn't waiting on the next pleasure. It's waiting for you to step into it with intention and courage. Now, as we close this journey, remember the greatest freedom comes not from escaping discomfort, but from choosing what will shape your destiny. The pursuit of happiness is not a path of indulgence, it's a path of meaning. And that path starts with you.